Hi, and welcome to Together, the podcast where we teach and guide you in the art and the practice of sacred relationship so that you can experience a deeper felt sense of connection. In today's episode, we are going into the topic of taking space in sacred relationship, knowing when space is needed and how to honor it without losing that connection. The key points that we're going to speak to today are the signs you need to take space or that space is needed, and how to ask for it once you realize it. And you're going to want to make sure that you stay till the end because we're going to share a powerful way to get your connection needs met without clinging to your partner, especially when the space is needed. It's a total game changer for co-regulation and emotional intelligence.
So we were excited and driven to do this topic because we just got a crash course in it again in our relationship, a deepening, I'm going to say, of why this is such an important piece. And I'll map out the scenario. We are off on this magical camping trip. Me, Mike, Cedar, our 3.5-year-old, and we're going to be camping on the pristine waters of Courtney Lake for a week. And we're going to spend time together and be present with each other. And then, lo and behold, we arrive and crunch. We are hitting relational crunch. And I know that for many of you, you can relate. This is a thing. Just in our couples community last week, there was a couple in our community and they were camping and they're like, well, we just spent the last 3 days in relational crunch. We're supposed to be here enjoying each other. And, the game changer of what shifted things for Mike and I'm so proud of how we sorted that out and figured it out. Because in the past, I wouldn't have figured that out. And it would have been crunchy the whole week and there would have been hurt in past relationships. And the key was space. And, letting go of what our story was about, okay, well, we're here. I felt this in myself. We're here and we're supposed to be spending time together. We actually have time together. We have to spend time together instead of really feeling into what does the field need? And then when I could feel in like with that wider part of myself, okay, we need a lot of space. We both have a lot of core healing coming up. We both have younger parts coming up. We actually need to take more space. And what was the game changer was, okay, Mike's going to go spend 5 hours and he's going to go be with himself and he's going to go kayaking and he's going to go, and I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time by myself and doing that every day, and then having moments of time together. And that shifted the field huge. And in the end, we got to have so much juicy, deep connection that wouldn't have been available if we would have kept trying to be together in that place because of what was arising in the moment.
It's such an important piece to learn this because there can be I had that going on inside of me too. This expectation of like, oh, we're camping together for a week. That means we have to all be together for the full period of time. And
you thought that the whole time?
Yeah, that was just before going there. That was like an unconscious expectation of, oh, we're just going to be in the soup of our family for a week.
In my fantasy, we were going to take turns napping.
Totally. Parents of a 3.5-year-old. Yeah. Like I imagined there would be some times apart, but not in the way that we ended up co-creating it, which was so delicious. It was so needed. I think it's really important. It's really important to know when it's needed, which kind of goes into this first key point of like the signs that space is needed. For me, the signs in this experience, just to highlight, first of all, to give a bigger picture and why I feel we did need the space is in our day-to-day life, in our regular, week, the flow of our life in our weeks, the way that they're structured, there's so much happening. There's a lot going on in the schedule of co-creating and like doing this podcast. And we have our temple practices on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays where we're doing our intimacy pieces, and we're supporting clients, and we're supporting couples, and we got our couples community. For me, and I'm curious to hear about for you, but once we actually had a week scheduled out to just be in nature and to not be engaged with that schedule in the same way, all of the deeper, more vulnerable parts of me that I hadn't made contact with started to bubble up. And so some of the signs for me that started to show up were, oh, I feel tender. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit more reactive. Oh, I notice I'm like, I notice there's like these inner narratives that are playing out that are being projected onto you, but they're not actually about you. It's like my system really needing space so that I could connect to these vulnerable parts of myself. And so those are some of the signs of like, there's this narrative about you. And that's a really key sign, is if there's strong stories or narratives about something about you not meeting my needs or in the way of me meeting my needs, it's usually a good sign that space is needed to get really connected to that part that's coming up. That's feeling, for me, it was feeling, there's parts of me that were feeling a bit overwhelmed or feeling sad. I've had like working with like a layer of my core wound around weakness and just the way that I came into the world, just another layer. And me feeling that I need things to go so slow. So the signs for me is everything was feeling like it was going too fast. That was a sign for me. Everything's feeling like it's moving too quickly. And there's just so much responsibility. Oh, right. Little Mike, baby Mike online. Here he is. This is what's being presented. And I need space so that I can really hear what's going on in there. This part of me that's coming back alive, coming out of freeze or coming out of collapse. For me to learn how to parent it, I have to slow the field down. I need to take the space. I need to feel the feelings. I need to hear what it's actually about. And so those were some of the signs for me. They're like the irritability, narratives about you that aren't actually about you, and just a longing and a desire for things to go slower.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, how I'm thinking of this is it's when, you're having crunch come up together, like little moments of conflict, activation, frustration with each other, but it's not resolving. Like you're not moving through it. It's just like crunch, 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 crunch. And of course, there's many times where it's because I have stuff coming up and I'm in a vulnerability, but I want to just name this because this is the part that's always been very confusing for me in relationship is, it's one thing when I feel in myself that I'm needing space. That place where it's like, I'm feeling tender. I have a lot coming up. I just need to be with myself. That feels clearer for me. It's been less clear for me when that's not necessarily what's happening for me as an individual. But then when I'm relating with someone, we're like crunch, 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 crunch. Because when I like go into myself, I'm like, no, I feel up for relating. Like I feel good to relate. But then in the relational dynamic, we're not moving through. It's not resonant. And I've been super confused about that. And I feel like this time, what I've been working on in myself is recognizing that even if it's not that I'm needing space, I can still attune to, but the relationship needs space. The relationship itself is needing room to breathe. The relationship itself is needing more space for whatever needs to move through. And that is part of my tending the relationship. And so, sometimes it can be that your partner is going through something and it has a lot coming up. And maybe they don't know to ask for space. Maybe they don't know that that's what's needed, but you can attune to that. Like you can attune to, our relational, the we space needs space. because we keep bonking our heads into each other. And no matter how much I come in with like something relational, or it's like, we're just both getting activated, And so, that is, we can bring that in. We can bring that into the experience. And it was interesting for me to invite that, to be like, okay. And, and that was an empowered moment for me when I said, okay, we need to ground this family field. We need to get this grounded. We need to take more space. What is our plan? Okay, tomorrow, Mike, you're going to go take this time. I'm going to take this time. The next day, I'm going to take this. And just like mapping that out and doing it from a place. But here's the key that I just feel like is so important, is we're not talking about we need to take space to avoid dealing with what's here. Because there's a lot of, we need to take space because, I don't like how I'm feeling with you, so I'm just going to take space, which can have an undertone of punishment. Like, I'm going to punish you for what's happening, an undertone of like, I don't like you right now, like who you are right now in this. I don't like this, so I just don't want to be around you. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about recognizing the need for space so that both people can come deeper into connection with themselves, deeper into connection with their own process, and do their own inner work of connecting with spirit, of connecting with their own heart, of connecting with their own body, to then come back into connection. So it's not about walking away from each other, going and having a good time, forgetting all the things that are happening, and then being like, great, and then I'll just come back and it'll all be fine. It's taking the space to deepen in connection with self, And for me, even though I wasn't in a place where I like needed space, when we took the space, then I got in touch with the deeper layers that were coming up for me in our dynamic. I got in touch with like the deeper sacred invitation of like, oh, that part of my heart is needing to heal. Ooh, the part that like when I feel projected on, oh, it brings up that feeling from when I was a girl and I wasn't being seen. Oh, I can be there for that part right now. Hey, let's take this time. I'm going to be here with you, you know? Which was such a gift. And I got so much deeper connected because I don't know about you, Mike, I want to hear about this for you, but when I take that sacred space, I feel like then I can get in touch with what the relationship is initiating me into. Like the relationship is initiating me into a next level of healing. For me, over this camping trip, I was being brought into a deeper sense of heart healing around the hurt I was carrying from when I was a girl, when I was being projected on and not seen. So it was inviting me to look at that and to tend to that. And it was also inviting me to bring in more layers of safety and boundary and to get clearer about my biosphere. But if we don't take space and we just keep bashing our heads together, then I don't get to have those deeper awarenesses. Like I don't get to receive that inner wisdom and guidance of like, hey, Courtney, this is what you get to turn towards. And it was so powerful to turn towards it and be camping and on the water and playing with my son and feeling you off in the kayak fishing, and getting to commune with myself. Like take the medicine that had come out of the relationship.
Yeah. Beautiful. And this is the juice about taking that space when the intention is to connect deeper to that sovereign self. And I'm really glad you named the piece around the avoidance, because there can be a really strong dynamic that plays out. We've seen this in couples where it's like, I need space, I need space, I need space. But it actually is just preventing the deeper levels of vulnerability and intimacy in the partnership. And it actually feeds more of the disconnection. Just like in the intro of this episode of this podcast that we speak to, is the whole intention is to create a deeper felt sense of connection in the partnership. But in order to do that, I have to connect deeper to myself. I have to get into these parts of myself that haven't felt safe enough to be here. So when I take this space, when we look at this camping trip, God, it was so nourishing to be able to have the space to go at the pace of my heart. And what I've found with all the men that I work with and support, especially high achieving men, is it's actually, it would almost be hard to believe how slow things need to go for a man's heart to open who is a high performer, because in the external, everything's going so fast and they've created so much success in so many ways. I know for myself from the outside, it looks like I accomplished so much. And when I connect to deeper, more vulnerable parts of myself, little Mike, I have to go so slow and be patient and get to know what's in there and start to attune what it's actually about and what events from when I was a kid that haven't integrated. Like I have to go so slow. And then the gift of taking the space is it then leads to me feeling emotional resolve. I start to get insight and clarity of, oh, that's why this part doesn't feel safe in when the connection's happening. Oh, what's needed there? How can I learn how to parent this part of myself so that it's not expected of you? And then the juiciest part of this trip was when I took the space, when I got connected to my deeper layers of my own heart. I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, this and that. And oh, you know, elements that were alive in our relationship. I'm like, wow, there's places I am not speaking my deeper truth and afraid to because of what might happen. Like when I actually took that time, I was like, oh my God, there's something I need to express here that is about the adult partnership. Oh, that's terrifying for me. When I touched it, I'm like, oh God, I could share this and it could lead to you being pissed, you not wanting to be with me. These were all the fears. But because I had taken that time to really connect to those parts, I'm like, I'm not going to abandon this part of me. I'm going to share this. And it was so relieving to have you available and open to receive what came from that space, because I got to share what was there. And what was really cool is the exact opposite of what that little voice in my head told me. The exact opposite happened. It led to us being in deeper connection. Like when you shared the words, wow, it feels so good to feel you. Thanks for sharing this. I'm like, what? Isn't this the moment where you say you don't love me anymore or are dissatisfied? But it was the thing that I noticed for me anyways, and I'd love to hear from you, that actually started to weave in the reconnection, that deeper felt sense of us being together. And then that's where it became nourishing, where the space creates the nourishment of self and then creates for me the courage and the strength to bring more of that self to the partnership. Like more of the, when we talk about wholeness, in partnership and personal development, bringing that wholeness back to the partnership and learning how to then reorient with each other's wholeness. Like that has been so sweet to feel that.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like the aspect that I think is important to speak to is when we don't have a handle on what's happening for ourselves, we won't be able to come into conscious relationship. Like if I don't really know what I'm feeling, what's arising, then I don't have anything to bring to Mike to say, this is what I'm needing, or this is what's happening for me, or could then it's just blah, blah, like it's just energy just banging into each other, right? Even if we're trying to like relate in a conscious way, if I'm not in touch, if I don't know, if I don't have a sense, I can't actually come to the relationship in a conscious way. We don't have to fix and solve all the things there, but we need to be able to come and say, hey, like I'm realizing I'm feeling scared, or, oh, hey, like I'm realizing that this is like what's happening for me in a deeper way, or I have this need. We need to be able to bring something to the table. So we have to be able to connect with ourselves first. And where people can get really stuck is they're trying to connect with each other first, right? Like I'll come to you And then that's what's gonna, and then inevitably it's just crunch, 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 more and more hurt, more and more. And what we want to do in sacred relationship, and we guide this a lot in our community and also in our containers when we work with couples 2 to 2, the biggest thing is we have to get better at harm reduction in terms of when those crunchy moments are happening, we need to intervene way quicker and take space way quicker so that we're not piling on the hurt. And the thing that I do want to say here is this is why it's so important that we have ways that we're going to work with the space. And dovetailing into our second point about how to communicate it, when you come back, like when you would come back from taking the time, of course, there was this little part of me, because I've been in relationship with people who are more in avoidance, would be afraid, like, is he just going off and avoiding and then he's going to come back and he's just arriving thinking that now everything will be fine, but like nothing's changed. And so much relief when you would come back each time with a little more awareness, a little more insight, a little more, and of course I was doing my own version of that. But then that soothed the part in me that was afraid, oh no, are you just avoiding? And this is why how we communicate about taking the space is so important, because this is where we're actually setting the container of together of what the intention is of the space, right? So it's very important, we decided together what the space was going to look like. It wasn't one of us being like, that's it, I'm just taking space and then leaving. Sometimes you have to do that because you're so heightened, but we really do, especially if it's going to be a longer chunk of time, longer than 20 minutes to just go cool down. We need to together come up with the space plan, And sometimes in Mike and I's life, it looks like me and Cedar are going on a way out for the day to give Mike just time to be home and to work and create. And then other times it's like I take Cedar for half a day and Mike takes Cedar for half a day. And, but we come up with a plan. What's our plan? And in that way, even though we're taking space, we're doing it together and we're agreeing this is what we're doing.
Yeah. It's so important to communicate the we in the space. And again, if there's that point where, when you said it's too heightened, usually it's the need for space and the signs of the needing space were missed. There's too many misses, and it's like 7 of the signs that were missed. And then it's gotten so big that it's like it's extra crunchy. Like, oh, I just need to get out of here. But if we can catch it and notice these signs that we've talked about in this episode, if like, oh, reactivity, if like there's just all these relational misses, hurt on both sides, or narratives of like, well, me too. Like if we can't be present with each other's reality, it's a really strong sign we need the space. And then in the communication of it, it's really wise. What I've found helpful in our practice is communicating the we in the space is like, hey, as an example, this would be my version. If we use this recent camping trip of like, hey, oh God, I'm just really noticing I need space so that I can go slow, connect to this young part of me meet it and me parent it so that I can bring the best version of me back to the partnership. Because if I'm trying to parent this thing while parenting Cedar and being in our partnership and tending the camp, it's too much. And so I want to take the space so that I can bring all that resource back here. And so we can.
And that feels, by the way, when it's said like that, like my whole body melts. Like, yes, please. Yes, please. I want you to do that. I want you to have the space. Versus if you had just been like, I need space. I'm going. I'm leaving. I don't want to deal with this. Like that would have been like, oh, whereas this was like, oh, yes. Oh, okay. Amazing. And even though there were moments where it was stretchy, I'm like, oh, I'm parenting again. I thought we were going to be taking turns napping, but then I'm on board for it because this is great. This is in service. And, when I had named it, I had said it like this. We need to ground our family field. So we need to figure out how much space, what's our plan, what's our structure over the next few days to create more space to get this family field grounded. And in that, it's not like blame, it's just this is our overall intention of what we're doing, you know? And and then the other part was, and this was key for us, and for me, you know, I have secure attachment and I have anxious attachment, like, and a little bit of avoidant too. But what was really important for me, I found, was also, and this will be true for many of you out there, the communication on the return. So attachment is both the way we leave and the way we come back together. So there's the communication when we plan the space, but there's also how we return from the space, you know? And there was the one day where I got so triggered on the return where Mike came back, like returned, but I had sent mixed signals too. Like it was I wasn't clear what I was needing in the return. So I had said, I don't want to repair right now. And then this is what triggered me is he came back and he was like, yeah, that was the best fishing trip. Caught this big fish and it like came off the line. Yeah. And what it triggered in me was that place of like, oh, great. Yeah, here's the masculine, needed a bunch of space, went off, just had a great time. Now he's coming back. Now he wants meat. And so I've been watching the 3-year-old. And now instead of coming back and like being intentional about reconnecting with me, now he just wants me to hold space for his epic journey and everything's fine. Like that was my like, you know. But what was amazing is I watched that. I saw how it triggered me. I said, oh my God, just the way that we just reconnected was so triggering for me. And then Mike said, well, like, what is it you're wanting? And I also was like, obviously, I'm wanting something. And so then I was able to tell him, when you come back, I'm needing slowness. I'm needing intention. I need you to like look in my eyes, intentionally move towards, but slowly, right? Because at this point, there'd been a lot of crunch. So my nervous system was like, what is going to happen here? Slowly make eye contact. And I really need some sort of affirmation of the part of you that's like happy to be back, that wants to reconnect, that, and an intention of, I really want us to repair some of the hurt that happened. And so I actually ended up texting him a list of the things that I needed. And that helped, like the consecutive times when he returned and he put it into practice more, it really helped.
And it's important what you name there too, because the texting of the list of things to do on the return was something I asked for, because I know for myself, if I can't read it, if it's not visible, I think I know what I'm hearing in the request, but then we've had so many crunches where I'm like, I totally misunderstood what you were saying. But if it's written down in text, I can actually go back and reference it again, really feel into what's being expressed. And then when I go and execute those things, if it's not landing, I can ask for more clarity so that I can learn in a very adult way. What are you needing? Like exactly tell me, okay, what about that didn't land? Because when I read this phrase, I feel like I'm doing that. What's off in it? Is it my energy? Is it the body language? Is it the words I used? And so just, when we talk about this point here of how to ask for it, it's not just how to ask for the space, it's how to ask for the return. And it's how to ask for the map in that return. So, for you, if you're listening, you might be someone that's just like, oh yeah, you tell me, I got it. If you're like me, you need it texted, you need it sent so that you can look at it. Because when I think of the other 2 or 3 times on my return that went well, on my return home, I was rereading it, being like, okay, Mike, when you go back, you're going to lower your energy, not in a way of codependence, but in a way from an empowered place, wanting to meet what your nervous system's needing. God, I'm jacked up. I feel so filled up from this time that I needed to connect to myself. And
which I love.
Yeah. and which I was nourished by, because part of it was connecting with the little Mike, and the other part was I needed to move my body and integrate and be in nature and just like push myself going through a storm in a kayak. Like I needed that too. That was part of what I needed, how I needed to reconnect to myself. And so then I needed to then be aware, and what you're naming is mindful of how we impact each other. We're in each other's care. Okay, so you've just gifted me all this time apart, and then vice versa. We're gifting each other this time apart, holding the load of the family field while that's happening in service to the whole. But then great, what does that look like? How do you need to be received on the welcome back? What are some key phrases? I remember like, oh, I really need to hear things like, I'm so glad you took time to connect with yourself. Well, I'm really glad that I can really see you're building a deeper relationship to like little Mike in there. I trust your process. Like I directly asked for those things, and you don't have to do them, but it's what a gift to be able to offer that level of clarity and ask specifically for what would be the most helpful. And what I found in that is that actually brought us into a deeper, like sacred we, when we were, because what I found, and I'm curious to hear from you, but I found that it actually initiated a deeper awareness of self and what we're needing so that we could clearly even ask for it or communicate it.
Yeah, totally. Well, and this is the art, right? And the thing to understand is Mike and I do have lots of space in our daily life, and there's an art to getting the hang of. At certain times in relationship, we're going to need more space than other times because one person is going through a really big inner shift, because both people are going through a big inner shift. Maybe something's happened in life that's been a lot to integrate. Like there's going to be times where we're in harmony and we're closer and we're, having little bits of time apart. But then there's going to be times where we need a lot of time apart. And all of that is a part of intimacy, but we have to get into the dance of letting go of our idea of what that means and attuning to what's actually needed for the relational space now, and trusting the rhythm, right? Trusting the rhythm and knowing that there could be a few months where there's a lot more space needed, but we're communicating in an intentional way, we're using it in a good way. And then there could be a long stretch of time where, wow, we want to be a lot closer and it feels really good to be a lot closer. And it's all part of it. But where it gets messy is if we're not attuning to it, if we're not allowing it, and we're not knowing how to do it in a way that is in service to the growth.
Yeah. And a piece to add here is like what really lands it for me is when I think of this arc of the soul of our relationship and who Courtney and Mike have been in this arc of being together. Who you are today is not the Courtney I chose to be in partnership with 5 years ago. You're so different, and vice versa. And what I've found is there needs to be enough space when there is this shift in evolution to this next version of ourselves for us to get to know it. Because what I found is unconsciously what can happen is I'll just relate with you in the ways that I'm used to. And for you to like step into some new version of yourself, from my experience from over here watching it, is you need space when you get into the tender vulnerable part of, oh God, here's this new Courtney I'm wanting to bring online. Oh God, but if she hears this, she's gonna go right back into not wanting to be here. And for me too, like I've had these parts of me, I'm like, oh my God, I want to start bringing more of this truth. Oh God, I need to create ground in that part of me before bringing it into the day-to-day living and the pace that we're going at for it to be received well. And so it's like this whole art of learning to attune to how much time together, how much time apart. I think there's a wisdom of noticing where there is a shift happening. If you're listening to this podcast, you are in a partnership or wanting a partnership that's evolutionary. You want to continually be growing and awakening into higher versions of yourself. That means we're going to have to learn this art of attuning when life is moving through us in a way that is saying change is needed. And sometimes that change needs everything to kind of slow down so that we can attune to what change is moving through us and where does it want to go? What are the needs in here? What needs to be readjusted? And I've found for me personally, it's really difficult to hear all those whispers of life moving through me from like the divine if I'm just in the day-to-day rhythm and the noise. I need that time where it's just nourishing the way that my heart and body wants to move, and then it becomes clear, and then I have some adult like information to come back and bring to the partnership.
It was cool. We drank some cacao under the stars one of the evenings and then went to bed. And I actually had a dream that our
Mm.
house was burning down. It was on fire. And Mike and I looked at each other and we only had a moment to run in and grab the most important things. And we both, I didn't see what the things were. It was like we grabbed like two things each. And then we walked out and we just watched the house burn down. And when I woke up, I was like, whoa, what a powerful dream, because it feels like that. It's like we were letting the old burn down. And both of us really were doing core healing work on our hearts. So it's like, yeah, when you're in that level of transformation, it is going to be crunchy if you're trying to relate really deeply. And so it's not, neither of you are bad or wrong. That's just what's needed. And of course, it looks very different if you don't have a child, because then great, like we can, but it's so different when there's a business to hold, a child to hold, like, right? Then we got to get really creative in how we're going to create that space.
Yeah, so creative.
Yeah.
And then just really allowing these spaces, like in our version here with the camping for a week. Now, whenever we do long term camping, I'm going to anticipate that there's probably going to be a shift because we're both very sensitive beings. And what I found that we talked about earlier yesterday was being in nature and like being in the lake every day and leaving the normal rhythm and just sleeping on the earth. That did bring up a lot. It's like Pachamama, the great mother, holding to allow all the things to be, surfaced and looked at, and like what a gift. Because now being on the other side, I'm like, oh my God, that was so nourishing. My cup is full. I feel so much more connected to myself. I feel like I understand you deeper and what each other's needing, more tone and capacity to like hear each other's differences and truth, and then how to weave it together.
It's
And like,
beautiful.
yeah, what a gift. And if you've listened this far, we want to offer this bonus piece that we've really found helpful is and like what to do when there are these moments that the soul of your relationship is inviting space. And maybe one of you doesn't feel like you need so much space and the other partner does. And you have all these relational needs. Maybe Courtney, do you want to describe this
Yeah.
piece that we've found really helpful?
Yeah. One of the key pieces to this is to orient to other people that you can move towards. I was just sending a memo about this to one of my container clients working one-on-one. One of the biggest ways we can heal attachment wounding is having other people we can move towards. So maybe our partner needs space. Maybe I need space from my partner just because of what's coming up in our partnership. But then I can move towards other supports. I can go deeply connect with a friend. I can go deeply connect in other ways with other people. And what I, often encourage people to do is make a list of the people in your life that when you're around them, they help you feel seen, they help you feel grounded. Maybe you play together, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean you're moving towards that person to talk about what's happening. It could be, but it could just be you go and, Cedar and I the other day with friends went and did a despacho ceremony on the river, and is like just doing things like that. And because when bigger need for space is needed in relationship, especially maybe it's a month or 2 months where there's a lot more space needed, we do still need our relational needs met, right? And so this is where We want to move towards other people. We want to go, build intimacy with others who aren't in that need for space. And that's going to allow us to give that space to our partner and give the space to our relationship. The less we do that intentionally, the less people we have to move towards, and the less that we intentionally take ourselves to those people, the harder it's going to be to allow the space, and the more resentment there's going to be, the more frustration there's going to be. And it'll be harder for that alchemy to happen. Like on the one day, I actually drove in to the nearest town and I received a somatic session, and that was so helpful, you know?
It's so important. It's even more important. Like if pulling out the energetic highlighter, if you're parents, this is even more important. It's like so crucial that we are getting connection from different nervous systems, from different people. We are these multi-dimensional beings, and one person can't satisfy all of our needs. Like if we just allowed our default to kick in and just go the way we were conditioned and just try to do it all, just the two of us, being parents and meeting all the needs, like we would just crash and burn. There'd be so much crunch. But holy, the amount of nourishment that comes from the outer circle, and like the term I use here is inner circle, our inner circle of people that we choose to have the closest, and intentionally like feed those relationships and nurture them in the way, for me, like where it's the most aligned, people, and where it's just, this mutual benefit of being in connection together. All of that gets to fill the cup. Then we get to come back into the relationship with these different parts of ourselves satisfied, and then give from the overflow into the partnership, so that, us in this long-term partnership devoted, forever to be co-creating, like, bringing in the variety from these other partnerships to spill into what we have here that's so unique, that's so divine.
So have a plan. Like, don't orient your life around work. This is, we're going to be able to lean into each other. Orient, there's going to be times my partner can be there with me, and there's going to be times that they can't. Orient that there's going to be times when my partner is, available, and times that they're not. And who are the other people that are available, and set your life up in that way. Not in a way of, fine, I'm going to go connect with da-da-da. In a way of like, okay, great. We're not as close right now. I'm going to go get my relational needs met by my friends. I'm going to go connect with a friend of mine. So we are very grateful to all of our listeners for tuning in and your support. We love hearing how much it helps you in your lives. That's our favorite, and what you're longing to learn about too, and for us to talk about. And in our gratitude, we would love to offer you a free meditation for you to do on your own or with your partner that can deepen you into clarity and resonance and love together. And to access this meditation, you're going to go to give us a 5-star rating and a comment if you feel a little extra spicy. Take a screenshot of that, and then you're going to follow the link in our show notes to get your free meditation. And we're always so grateful because this helps us reach more people. It helps us get in the network of other conscious couples. And, if you have been listening and you are like, yes, 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 I resonate with everything you're saying. And every time I try to put this into practice, me and my partner get into a fight, and this is not going to work with my partner. We keep hitting the same wall, or, I get it. And I just don't feel like I can be that for my partner, let my partner in that way. But yet it's resonating. This is why we have created our online community for couples, because it's one thing to understand it and to resonate with it, and it's another to put it into practice. And in the community, we offer guidance, we offer practices, we deepen a lot into the teachings, and it's so powerful for both you and your partner to be there, being supported by both Mike and I, a couple, and getting to be there with other couples and watching the journey that they're on, watching the things that couples are sorting through and figuring out. You know, in our last couples call, we actually had a couple in there that have been together for 20 years and they had the same pattern repeating. And in one of the practices that we did, they were, you know, blown away because they actually moved through a place that's been stuck for 20 years. And they had tears on their faces, huge smiles, relief. Wow. And this is what can happen when we intentionally gather and we practice together, is we can actually move through the places that are feeling almost impossible to move through. And we're watching it with so many couples. So if you're interested, follow the link in our show notes, check it out. We'd love to have you.